I will hear no more about the intro, right? All questions regarding the intro are over. That is the music. That is the intro. It is staying. It will not be changed unless one of you fine folks out there who complain about the intro all the time wants to send me in free music that sounds better than that. And also, by the way, right, I know I haven't said hello yet. I'll say hello in a minute. Is Martin doing our steel shipment impression with his timing? I was 30 seconds late and we were having an extremely sociological conversation. I'll have you know, I won't tell you what it was about because that will just start a war. But yeah, I wasn't that late, JD.
In short, I'm Robert's dad. You know?
Yes, in short, Ian's Robert's dad. Yeah.
I came straight on. I looked at the two of them and I went, "Oh my God, it's the mother-son combo tonight." Great.
Yes. Is that just because they're both handsome, Brian?
No, more than likely, yes, absolutely.
What is it? Robert says plenty. That's plenty.
Yes, that's plenty. The casserole Super Sal was my missus. The casserole was lovely. Absolutely
right,
lovely. Yeah. So it was. It wasn't at all.
Did you have chips with it?
Oh yeah, big chunky ones, Brian. Big chunky chips.
Chippy
hello,
chips.
Hello, by the way, and welcome along to the Rangers Rabble podcast. I haven't said that yet. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We greatly appreciate every single person who takes time out of their day to watch the Rabble. Your views are never taken for granted, so thank you so much. In case you haven't noticed, I'm wearing a very fancy t-shirt. I say fancy, it's black with the Rangers Rabble badge on it. That's pretty much what it is. But you can get this and more, including mugs, which I haven't got yet. I'm still using my wee tiny mug. From the Rangers Rabble website. There's a store there, and of course you can read our blogs as well. The link for which is in the description, because it's like rangers-rabble.email.com or something. Anyway, go into the description, you'll see the website, you can have a wee look for yourself and see what you think. I'm joined tonight by Robert, Brian, and Ian. Robert, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Really good. Obviously, it's first time being on with my dad, so I'm looking forward to that. Brian, yourself. So I look forward to the next hour of chatting about the weekend, obviously, and tomorrow night.
And Ian, how does it feel to know that you owe Robert so much back money?
As long as he's not looking for money, I'm all right. You know what I mean? But oh no, listen, it's great to be on. I've never been on before, and I was always a big fan of listening to him over the last wee while when I've been watching the Rabble. You know? That's
only because you knew in your heart of hearts he was your boy.
But to be fair, Martin, if you're honest, I actually told you not to put me on him because it would just fall into a mess.
It would fall into a mess. It has fallen into a mess. It has fell into a mess. Fall into a mess. That's not even proper England. Brian, fresh off the Rangers Women's show that went live tonight at 6:30. Double shift for you tonight, my friend. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Yep, I always enjoy my double shifts on a Monday. It's good. It's my night that I set aside that I know I can do both, so I enjoy it. It's 2 hours of talking about Rangers. What more do you want?
Rangers to win the league. That would be. I would want that. I mean, if they says to me, Martin, the Rabble will be no more if Rangers win the league, then it was nice knowing you all, to be brutally honest with you. Right, okay, we're here to talk Rangers. I've got a few things on the agenda tonight. I'm going to try something a wee bit new later on. So stick around for that. We'll see how that goes. I want to have a quick look back on the Motherwell game because don't think I've spoke to any of you since really the Motherwell game. Before I do that, if you are watching and you enjoy the show, if you're watching on YouTube, please give it a wee like and subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, share all that good stuff and give us a follow over on Facebook. And of course, if you're on Twitter, make sure you're following and give the show a like and get your comments in on all platforms, please. I'm going to try my best. It's sometimes difficult because we got a lot of comments, but I'm going to try my best to get as many comments up as I absolutely can. Ian, Motherwell, Rangers 2, Motherwell 1 at Hampden. You were there. First of all, what did you make of the atmosphere? And how did you feel watching that game? Because for me, it just all felt kind of strange.
It was a wee bit strange, but it's like I think Clement described it perfectly today. It was like your first day at school. You know what I mean? And that's what he said in the interview. And it felt a wee bit like that because everyone was a wee bit unsure. I turned up mega early because I expected the whole ticket debacle to go wrong. It didn't for me, but it did for many folk around me. So, I think that you could feel the disgruntled kind of, oh Christ, let's just make the best of it type attitude that was kind of around the stadium a wee bit. Certainly from where I was and listening to the folk that I've sat around for Christ knows how long, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think, listen, we'll get used to it, hopefully for not too long. And we're back home. I see someone posting some pictures today in our group chat of Steel arriving, moving about, whatever's going on. So, yeah. As far as the atmosphere goes, it was different, but you know, I didn't hate it.
Can I just apologise to Robert because he was on the reaction pod, so I have spoken to Robert.
Okay.
My apologies, Robert. I am very, 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 very sorry.
Just the game itself. Want me to crack on about the game itself, or are we just?
If you would not take away my talking points, Ian, you would let me segue into that. And on that, I will come straight back to you then before I bring in Brian and Robert, who's already had his say, so we'll ignore Robert in this segment. Right. But on the game itself, Ian, I think we said, on the reaction show, for the first 20-25 minutes, we played well, we played okay, we created chances. And I think I was just really, not disillusion's a strong word, but I can't really think of a better one to use. I was quite disillusioned with the second half performance.
Yeah, the second half was just a kind of, I think I said in the group chat again, it was a different seat, but same view. It looked at the second half was a bit of what we've been used to seeing, us not being able to kill games off, and it felt very much that. And if it wasn't for a fantastic Jack Butland save diving to his left, it could have been a different story because it was a cracking save. I watched it back. It was on my side of the pitch right enough, but I watched it back on the TV later and it was a belter of a save. Absolute beaut. But on the piece, we started strongly, as you say. First half, we were really good, I thought, albeit when Scott Wright rounded the keeper and then kind of took an ace to sort his feet to then, shoot. A striker would have put their laces through that and it would have hit the back of the net. It wouldn't have been hit, or the hit off the defender and gone in. Wright kind of powder puffed a wee go at it there. He should have busted the back of the net. And the same goes for the rebound for Dessers because the keeper's flailing feet caught that, And that's a great example where we don't have a penalty box striker per se. Those wee chances get taken by strikers, So, but listen, the big man got his goal. He was great to that extent. But as usual, he missed another 2, maybe 3, you would argue, that should be good. And again, it was ones that had a wee bit of too long to think, and it went straight and north and heading out towards Aikenhead Road or the other side as well. You know what I mean?
Mount Florida. It would have been heading towards Mount Florida.
Yeah, Mount Florida. Thank you. So it was a bit of that, but I think as well something that didn't get picked up, and in particular the goal that we lost. No one's really mentioned what a great ball it was over by the Motherwell player. Because to be honest, if you play football and you whip that ball in between the 2 centre backs and the keeper, and as much as Suter tried his best to get a touch on it, and he did, and then as much as Proper knew he had to get a touch on it because the guy was behind him at his shoulder. Yeah, it was unlucky that way, but they both did have to try and block it because it was a good ball in. You could do that 100 times and that outcome wouldn't happen again, but that's just how it goes for us at the moment, a wee bit. You know what I mean? So, yeah, do you know what? It's 3 points. It's work in progress. Should the team improve? I think so.
Oh, God, yeah, 100%, Brian. We could massively, massively improve. And it was actually, I don't think, and Robert can correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't think we mentioned Butland's save on the reaction. I think that was completely glossed over. I think we completely missed that out. Robert, we did.
The only keeper we spoke about on Saturday night was Finn Foden's wife.
Right, okay. That was the only keeper.
Maybe got lost in translation somewhere.
Aye, well, that's fair enough. So we did then, Brian. We completely forgot to speak about it. And obviously, Butland done the press conference today, and I really do. I like the way Butland speaks. He's very confident. And he comes out and says what he wants and where he wants us to be. And I specifically love the comment about, the Champions League's where it's at. It's great being in the Europa League because you can get far and you can compete, but the Champions League's where it's at. And I like that. But there was people doubting Jack in pre-season before the season started. I think that probably just goes along the lines of, I think we were just picking on every single negative that we could find and jumping on it. But again, showing that when he's needed, when he's called upon, he's there.
Absolutely, and that's the mark of a good goalkeeper. You know, as I said many times in the past, you know, we've been blessed with great goalkeepers over the years, where Woods, Gorham, McGregor, where they've had nothing to do for goodness knows how long, and then that one moment you need them to make a save, they're there. And you know, the concentration levels have got to be on point for the whole game, and that's what Jack does. He's an imposing goalkeeper. He's 6'4", 6'5". You know, he's a big lad, and you know, to get down and get that save was, as I think somebody said in the comment, it was a world class. You know, it was world class. It was a tremendous save, and I liked his comment as well, where he was basically shutting down any speculation about him moving on as well. I was pleased to hear him say that. You know, I'm not moving anywhere. We've spoke about it, and it's for me, it's shut down now. No more chat about it. So that was great to hear as well. It was great to see Proper and Czerny, was it Czerny? Yeah. Both get starts. I thought Proper was unlucky, as Ian says. You know, he had to do something with that cross, and unfortunately, it ended up going in the goal. Czerny, we'll speak about him soon enough, but you know, he's all the ingredients of hopefully solving that dreaded right wing position.
I'll kind of keep it on the game, Robert, but also slightly switch it at the same time. In the press conference today, the manager and Butland both spoke about Liam Kelly, about his influence around the team, about how positive he is in the dressing room, how good he is for other players. And Butland and the manager, was asked, is Liam Kelly coming in making Jack Butland a better goalkeeper, etc., blah, blah, blah. He said, no, that's not how football works. That's not how life works. I think maybe there is a wee bit to that, because any pressure that you've got on for your starting jersey is obviously going to make you either play better or play worse or whatever. But on that save for Jack, but also more of the point on Liam Kelly coming in to have that experience. And he's a very good goalkeeper, Liam Kelly, whether he's good enough to be the Rangers number one going forward or not. But I was happy to hear the manager and Butland both speak about his presence in the dressing room.
Listen, for me, it's an improvement. He's an international goalkeeper. I know Robbie McCrory's been in and about there, but Liam Kelly got a lot more games under his belt in terms of first-team appearances. You listen to the manager as well, speaking about how he is with the younger keepers, Budnakis, etc. And then it was interesting. Butland actually said he offers something different, which sort of caught me. I'm thinking, well, I'd like to see what that something different actually is. But no, listen, they were very complimentary about him. I don't think he's going to get loads and loads of games. I think Butland probably knows that, Kelly knows that, but he's going to be there if the worst had happened to Jack Butland, fingers crossed nothing does. So, no, as you say, it's I think an improvement in that position. One of the only areas in the park that we have really improved, you have to say. Listen to the manager, I'm sure you get on it. There's got to be a few more coming in, but goalkeeper looks really shored up, and we've got guys that we can rely on in there.
I'm going to take us straight to you as well, Robert. Something that Ian mentioned, and channel member John Scott Ranger has jumped on Ian. So I'll give you a chance to come in a minute, Ian. Right, just calm down, settle yourself down. Strange that Dessers still gets pelters for his misses, and that's for his misses at goal, not his actual misses. And Morelos was held as a hero with an inferior goal record at this stage of his Rangers career. Robert.
Listen, it all comes down to timing. When Morelos came in, we were in need of a hero, and along he came, and we latched onto him, and we loved him. Whereas with Dessers came in, it was a sort of a hard act to follow. He comes in, doesn't really set the header alight, and people start getting on his back very, very early. So I think it's all down to circumstance in terms of when they've come in. He certainly won me round. I was on here 12 months ago saying, no, get him out, he's not good enough. I was really on his back, and I'll hold my hands up to that. But I've warmed to him. I do think, I said at the weekend, I actually think that the manager might be thinking, no, I don't want another striker in. If we can get other players in ahead of that, I think that the striker position might go on the back burner. And I know people in the comments won't like that. And if out the two, if one is to move on, looks to me at the minute that Daniil's the one in the shadows, because he's not getting any minutes, as we spoke about at the weekend. So, no, to answer John's question, I think it's just destiny or circumstance, timing. Morelos, at that point, we were really needing somebody to latch onto a goal scorer. The club's always been famous for having goal scorers, and the wee man came in and we embraced him. Dessers, it's been a bit of a different ride. But I think it's coming along. I think there's more people I speak to, the more people are warming to him, and the more people that are taking him on board. And you can't really. I know he does miss chances, but he also takes chances as well. So no, I'm happy where he's at the moment.
And Ian, I'll bring you in on that as well, but I'll also put this point to CGM, because this is actually a question that I'm going to be bringing up shortly, because it was something that I took for the press conference. But CGM is saying, I would argue Morelos was also playing in at times a far better Rangers side than the current one Dessers plays in. Any argument there for you that Morelos, especially in the beginning or whatever, managed to get a bit of an easier ride than Dessers? Although
he certainly joined
I don't want to jump in on the argument because it's a question I'm asking you, but Morelos did become a top ever European goal scorer.
Yeah. Listen, he certainly joined the Rangers team in the ascendancy at the time. I mean, that was the difference. So Morelos came in when everything was kind of going in the right direction for Rangers. Dessers maybe not so much, But going back to the original point there where the lad said about why does Dessers get pelters for his misses? Stop pelters. It's a statement of fact. Dessers misses some 3 or 4 clangers every game. That's a statement of fact. He does. That's just how it is. But if you actually listen to what I've been saying the last couple of pods, I'm actually firmly in the Dessers camp. You know what I mean? He's clearly got something to offer, and I was first to kind of, as Tim just said there, I was first to kind of lead the chase on him last year. You know what I mean? I was absolutely. The guy's not holding up play. He's not making intricate wee runs. He gets caught offside. He doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. But he's rode all that out, and he's still scoring goals. Point me to another goal scorer at Ibrox right now, and I'll call you a liar, because there isn't one. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I mean, your £6 million Danilo can't get off the bench at the moment. Now, I'm sure there's more reasons than the fact that that he's not particularly match fit, that he's not getting on. You know what I mean? But the truth of the matter is, Clement clearly doesn't fancy him at the moment, and clearly favours Dessers, and you can absolutely see why.
And you know what? I can sit here and I can say right back to you, well, we don't know that is the case. We don't know that. We don't 100% know that Clement doesn't fancy Danilo or whatever. It could be a fitness thing, blah, blah, blah. But then the immediate answer to that is, but if that's the case, why is he on the bench?
Exactly.
As long as the manager continues to put Danilo on the bench, then there will continue to be questions asked about why he's not getting any minutes.
Listen, time.
Oh, you go in, sorry.
Sorry, listen, we'll know the answer to that really quickly, because at the end of the day, Dessers will be doing his 3 games a week soon. You know what I mean? And essentially what will happen is, he's there already, correct? So essentially Danilo is going to have to be used just from squad rotation alone, right? So that'll get answered. But surprisingly enough, it wasn't put to him today by the mainstream media press.
Yes, I did notice that. Not a single question surrounding it.
Martin, I just think, knowing the manager's makeup, knowing how the manager is, I actually think he's doubling down on Dessers in the sense that he's backing him. He's backing him to help. There's been too many questions about as Ian put it, his star striker, the man that's putting the chances away. Too many questions. I don't think he liked that presser before Kyiv with Balogun was answered the question, and there's been a lot going around since then. I think he's doubling down. I think he's saying, look, he's my man. He's going to play for me, and he'll be the one that I put on the park for the most minutes.
But surely, Robert, you can back him. Sorry, Brian. Surely, Robert, you can back Dessers and Danilo can still get 10 or 15 minutes here or there. Surely you're not. It's not just the fact that he's backing him and then not giving Danilo any time. Now, I want to qualify it, right, by saying that maybe Danilo isn't quite ready to be in a position to come on in games, or maybe the managers looked at the games and went, I don't trust Danilo and his current fitness to come on and change the game.
It's the
Fair
latter.
enough.
No, it's
but
the latter.
Don't put him on the bench.
It's the latter because he's come out and rebuffed these comments by saying when the games are in the balance, it's not been the right time to bring Danilo on. He's obviously waiting until we're 2, at least 3 up, and then, right, I'll give Danilo 10, 15 minutes, because at that point then it's no a gamble, it's no a risk. So I think it's the latter of the two. I don't think it's the first one. I do think he's fit. Danilo spoke all pre-season about he's fit, it's just past it, he's through it. So, and we saw him, I was at St Andrews, I saw him play the game. So, albeit he didn't look in great shape, but he's obviously he was ready to start that game. So, I don't think there's queries about fitness. I think it's the fact that the manager's doubling down on Dessers, and Dessers our man.
I can't see any way that Danilo didn't have a great pre-season in terms of fitness and training and all the things you're meant to do in preparation for the season. I can't see how it was in any way handicapped.
I mean, I think from my point of view, we've been through this experience where managers have flogged forwards, more specifically Morelos in that season. And he flogged him to death when he was injured. What I'm worried about is if he does it with Dessers, we're then left with either Danilo or the young kid in Gami. He's got to be more smart. I mean, he's played 3 games in a row now, 3 90 minutes in a row, and he's going to play obviously on Tuesday night as well. So that's going to be 4 games back to back. I mean, there's we're very early in the season. You just don't want the manager to flog a forward and then sort of burn them out very early doors, because it's going to be a long, hard season, and we need the whole squad to contribute, not just one guy sort of up front and sort of relying on him.
Right, this isn't particularly a question that I wanted to ask, and this certainly wasn't the direction that I thought this show was going in, right? Because I've got quite a lot to get through. But the members are our bosses. The members pay the Rabble's wages. So the members, when they ask a question, if I can facilitate it, I absolutely will. Super Sal. Okay, lads, here's a question for you. If you had to choose between Dessers and Shankland, who do you pick if you can only have one of them? I mean, it's a tricky question because there's no real question there because we don't have Shankland. But Robert, I'll take that to you, seeing as you look the most scared there.
Good.
No. see if you listened to podcast after the weekend in Scottish football, after Hearts were demolished up at Dens. Shankland is now overweight. He's not looked after himself in pre-season. Everybody's coming out and beating him with every stick he's got. Seen some stuff on social media calling him a fat this and a fat that. Absolutely incredible. This guy is like arguably the top marksman, and well, he is. He's the best player of the season last year. So, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and it's nothing against Dessers, because as I said to you a moment ago, but I'd have Lawrence Shankland. He's a Rangers supporter. He's been the best striker in the league for a couple of seasons now for me. So it's Lawrence Shankland if I had to pick, and there was a gun to my head for Super Sal.
Yeah, but the problem is we won't sign him because he's ready to play. We don't sign strikers who are ready to play. So I think we can all just forget about that. Right, okay. That didn't go the way that I expected it to do. I've got a few more questions that I want to ask that have come out of the press conference. But first, a new segment here on the Rangers Rabble. What are they talking about? So, I just thought of that, by the way, that just right off the top of my head. That is the marketing genius that I am. As everybody knows, talksport is the most respected radio station in the whole... I can't keep a straight face and say that. talksport are one of the biggest people for clicks, right? But they've got my attention. So, I'm going to play this clip. This is from... what's his name again? Simon Jordan. Jim White. This is for the Jim White show. They had Graham Souness on. There's 2 points that I'm going to bring up separately. But this is the first one. So listen to this, and then we shall come back.
Claiming the last 3 in a trot. Is there anything to... and I know I'm putting this to the former player manager of Glasgow Rangers. Is there anything to persuade you that anything is going to change this season and that Celtic will end up with that Premier League title,
Jim,
with green bows on the trophy?
We've played 2 games. You cannot make that call. I'm a bit disappointed that we have not bought more and better players. The manager will be. He signed a new contract. That mystified. Before you do that, you'd like some guarantees that you're going to get some more players in. I like what he did last year, and I think if he's given help, then it would not be impossible for Rangers to win the league. Obviously, Celtic are favourites. They have made a good start. I think the Kilmarnock lose again at the weekend.
They lost again, yeah.
Yeah, so that wasn't the hardest start for them. Tynecastle is a hard place for any Rangers team or anyone going to Edinburgh.
I'll leave that there. I don't want to get copyrighted off of talksport, because you know what talksport are like. Ian, it was you that sent me that. Well, not sent me that, but the actual full video clip. This seems to be the direction of travel for the media. The league's done. The league's won. Rangers can't catch.
Yeah, I mean, it started with your typical stupid Jim White question. You know, it's, I can't see anything other than a Celtic winning the league. Now, of course, they're heavy favourites because of what's gone before us. But the truth is, Graham Souness is right to say, look, we've played 2 games, we don't know enough yet. However, the outlook does look a wee bit bleak because we've maybe not furnished the manager with the funds, or maybe not the funds, but certainly the level of player that's necessary, and certainly the quantity of players that are necessary. Because look how weak we are. Centre half, middle of the park, look up front. You can, to be honest, I mean, you could argue almost every position. We're actually not got much cover or certainly depth for the amount of games that we've got coming. So I understand Souness being frustrated at that question because it's a typical annoying, sensationalised Jim White question, right? But I've got to say, you know, as much as Graham Souness made it sound, he was still very much pro Rangers, and you know we're still in this and all the rest of it. I think the underlying echo you can hear is one of lack of confidence, maybe
Frustration.
Yeah, frustration, lack of confidence.
That beautifully takes me on to the next clip. Now, this is one that I think we can all get tore into, right? This is Graham Souness talking about the current Rangers board. Now, bearing in mind, obviously, Souness was with the board and helped to appoint Clement. We all know that he quite liked the look of Frank Lampard, but was impressed by Clement. So this is Graham Souness, obviously in the same show, Jim White, Simon Jordan, talking about the current Rangers board.
James Bisgrove, that I mentioned earlier, the chief executive, disappears for Saudi Arabia. And all of a sudden, the decision-making process is not as strong at Rangers as it probably once was. Clement has nailed his colours to the mast and stays. But the task facing him
process
is immense, is it not?
So what was so great about the decision-making process? They put Michael Beale in the bleeding dugout.
No,
what was so great about that?
In that period, they did spend money that wasn't spent wisely. My concern is this is not me out for a job. Trust me, because that ship has sailed.
Has it sailed?
Has sailed. Yeah.
Have you no longer got any interest in going back to Rangers?
No, that's been and gone. I worry that where is the football knowledge with the board? You know, and I'd say this to their face as they're sitting here. You know, I took part in the recruitment process for the new manager.
Well, someone has some knowledge because they employed a manager that you like.
Met the people who are running the football club, and who do they ask a question of? It's you know,
well, they asked you last time, didn't they?
Well, I think the guy's a good manager, and given the right support, and I've said this, given the right support, we'll do well there.
Well, who else was in the mix when you went up there and you were asked for your opinion? They asked other people at the same time.
He's trying to set me up here.
I'm asking you a question, matey.
It's like reading the Beano Dandy.
Viz, in your case. Viz.
What are you trying to ask him?
I'm trying to, because Graham is going down the route, which is a well-trodden path that he likes to sprint on down every time he gets an opportunity. No one else has any knowledge besides football people, full stop. And I'm curious to see.
This has come from tactic managers.
I know. That's wonderful, Gray. Let's move on to the question I was going to ask, right? Which is the basic recruitment criteria that Rangers have is being deployed by who? Because they selected a manager, which you were, I believe, albeit slightly in favour of Frank Lampard, and then pivoted off that one when you saw Philip Clem come on through the door and he was doing quite well. But they must have some intellectual capital down there to be able to make decisions alongside the manager. Are you saying that they have none?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. None whatsoever.
You don't think they've got enough football knowledge, Graham, to go on the job in hand?
No, I think I'm hoping they're now listening to the manager. Because in the meetings, I didn't meet anyone with any history in the professional game that could say, well, maybe, you know, John Gregg's there, but I don't think he's got any sway there, or would want any sway.
Right, so Brian, you're shaking your head, so I will come to you. We don't normally do this type of things. Talksport's very clickbait. We all understand that, but obviously Graham Souness, player manager of Rangers Football Club, he loves the football club, etc., etc. He's met the board. He's helped the board make decisions, and now he's on a national broadcaster saying that the board have zero football knowledge and effectively don't have a clue what they're doing.
I was listening. I was driving in the car when I heard that this morning, and I was absolutely livid when I heard it. Although I wasn't totally surprised when I heard it as well. At the same time, I was shocked.
Were you livid with Souness, or were you livid with the points that he was making because they ring true to you?
That basically, yes. I was livid in the fact that he was telling basically what we all kind of knew, but we just hadn't heard it out loud. It's the first time that sort of somebody's come out and says, "Look, there's nobody on that board that's got any football knowledge as far as dealing with signing, looking at players and stuff like that, and it's worked in the football business for any period of time." And that for me was a bit of an alarming statement, to say the least. And as he was asked, he helped with the manager search in the for Clement, but to hear somebody actually come out and say that there's not much football knowledge on the board is kind of very worrying, extremely worrying actually. You need some form of football knowledge on a football board at some level, and to hear it actually out loud by somebody that's been involved fairly recently is alarming at best.
Right, I'll come to you in a second, Dean, but Robert, I'll go to you first. Just a general question. I've not got an opinion either way. I'm staying neutral for the moment. Does it matter if the board have any knowledge in football? Is that not what a director of football is for? Is that not what the manager's there for? Surely, if your board now in football, in the olden days, the chairman was a fan of the club, etc. But football's moved on. Is the board now not more about business than actual football?
Well, I think it's about a balance. If I'm honest, I think you've got to try and find the right balance. You look at the last couple of years in terms of the contracts that have been handed out at the football club. If that's by people that are not, football minded, then there's clear problems there. The people that have not been in the game and know how it works. So, I think we've all seen it for the last couple of seasons. We're not overly impressed with the board at times, the way they handle things, the way they sort of keep information and don't come out to the 11th hour. It is, it's been highly documented. So for me, Graham Souness has been there. He's met the guys. He looked them in the eye. I've got no reason to doubt what he says, albeit he wanted somebody else in the managerial position. That's, we were all shouting for different names at that point. So I think I was shouting for Kevin Muscat at one stage. So I won't hold that against him. But certainly, I think you've got to take it at face value. Souness, I don't think he's bitter in any way. He's just telling it how it is, and he's obviously fearful. He's fearful in that regard. So I think he's got the right to voice that. But as Brian says, it's not anything new. It's not shocking. It's just because he's just cemented the thoughts that we all had. It's not something to worry about as long as you've got something in place to try and combat that and try and move it forward. But at the moment, I feel like there's maybe a large onus on Nils Coppin to bring players in, albeit. But who's doing the other side of that? You mentioned a director of football. I don't see is Nils Coppin doing stuff that we don't really know about. Is he balancing things in other areas? We'll probably see in time, but they're going to have to be given time. Yeah,
so we are where we are because of a specific chain of events, right? And I just want to caveat this by saying Graham Souness, it's easy for Graham Souness to say this, as much as I'm a huge fan of Graham Souness. It's easy for him to say this from his ivory tower outside looking in, right? So that I completely understand. So if you're the Rangers board hearing that today, I can understand if you're a wee bit upset with Graham Souness, but it doesn't mean he's wrong. So essentially, we've got to where we've got to. Brian's right to say he was involved in the recruitment process, and it went down to our last two of Frank Lampard and Philip Clement. And as Robert said, he was kind of erring towards Frank Lampard in his choice, but liked Philip Clement. And as soon as Clement set his stall out, he said, "Yeah, do you know what? This guy's great." But I've got to say, we are where we are because of this right now. Now, in all honesty, John Bennett doesn't have any football guys on the board. So what does that result in? It makes him lean into the bit of football that he does have around the place. So he's secured Philip Clement on an arguable deal that he almost didn't have to do, but he's bought into him, given him an extra year, and he's bought into Jack Butland as well. The two, Philip Clement and Jack Butland, are very much on story today at the press conference. They're very much backing what Bennett's saying, giving it the whole, give the guys time, blah, blah. And all of these things are correct to say. But my question is this to John Bennett. If you appoint a CEO who has a football mind, then you aren't leaning into, you've then got a much wider football vocabulary within your place of work. Yeah. So essentially what's happened is you're now, he's had to double down, I think a phrase that Robert used a minute ago. Bennett's had to double down into Clement and the senior players there. Yeah. When we normally might not have done that, had we had a CEO, director of football, recruitment sorted out, pre-copying, all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So to me, I hope it turns out giving Clement that extra year's deal is great, because there's nothing that scared me too much so far from Clement that he's done or said. Nothing too much. Sure, we've got questions over Danilo and what's going on with Cantwell and Hadji. I get all that, but that's just your daily bread as a football manager. But what I would be worried about is the fact that, you know, we need to kind of get the basic infrastructure in first, and then we're kind of doing things backwards and forwards and kind of patching a wee bit about the daily operations at Ibrox at the moment. So I'm not surprised that Graham Souness has made that comment, and he's got no reason to say anything other than the truth, because his obvious takeaway from, you know, dealing with the board during the recruitment process was, I don't want to say he was dealing with dinosaurs in there, but he was certainly dealing with people that maybe haven't got the finger on the pulse in modern day football when it comes to kind of footballing situations.
One of the best guys you've had on here, Martin. Top-notch comments from Robert's old man.
Brilliant. So
yeah, and what Souness also said in amongst all that, Brian, was that he hopes that the board start listening to the manager. Yes and no, because I don't want the manager. We've seen it under Beale, albeit Beale and Clement are two completely different characters. Clement's got a lot of experience in the game and he's won stuff, right? So I take that on board. But I don't want my board completely listening to my manager when they're making decisions. I want my board to be smart enough and know what they're doing to see when you should listen to the manager and when you shouldn't listen to the manager. So with all that said, what would make this situation then better? Would it be John Gregg maybe moving back into a more kind of advisory role? Or is it bringing somebody else onto the board who's got that football knowledge and they don't even need to necessarily have any kind of relationship with Rangers, or do they have to have a relationship with Rangers?
I would go with the middle part that you just said there. Somebody come in that has got no connection to the club that can move us forward and refresh things. You need somebody on the board that can actually communicate with these guys that are the money men effectively of the club and say, look, this is a good move to make. This isn't a good move to make X, Y, Z. You can't just have all money men on the board and then there's no football knowledge on it. You need somebody in there that has worked in the business and been in some shape, way, or form, you know, a manager, just been involved in football. And as I said before, I don't like. I'm really not into the sort of idea of it has to be somebody that's been involved with the club. We've done that goodness knows how many times, and it's rarely worked. It's when Gerrard came in, we were all claiming for a certain guy, and then Gerrard was a breath of fresh air, transformed the club and moved us forward. And we need to do the same. You need to keep refreshing things, moving forward. You need guys that are, you know, proactive. As somebody said in the comments, you need to be proactive rather than reactive. And you need to address things before everything happens. And for me, it's got to be somebody that's been in the business and is willing to put their neck on the line and say, right, we need to do this for the betterment of the club or whatever. But for me, it's got to be somebody that's out with, who's not connected, and they can refresh things completely.
I get that. And taking Andrew Lamb's comment, right? Rangers are evolving, and given time, I want to see Clement bring success to the club. What you need is a Peter Lawwell on the board. I get the point he's trying to make, right? Peter Lawwell does very good for Celtic in terms of transfers, etc. But I think what we all have to remember is there's going to be that balance between transfers and actually doing something in Europe. And that's not a dig at Celtic, by the way. You just have to look at their recent... They're not interested in Europe, the Celtic board.
No.
All they're interested in is winning the league, which is fair enough, win the league, whatever, and making money on transfers, which is half good, half bad. I want a CEO who's going to come in and say, we're building for the future, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we're going to take Europe seriously. But I get the point that Andrew was trying to make.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people probably are irked at just now is the fact that at one point in this window, Yanis Hadji was getting mentioned as a £2 million signing for Fiorentina. Within the last week, we're now hearing that he's going to get let off on a free. Now, that is one thing that's irked me for, I wouldn't like to say how many years at Rangers, is the fact that we do not get money for our players. We almost always get poor money, or we let guys go for nothing. It's that part of the business has got to change. We have failed.
That's Brian. That's where Celtic are streets ahead of us.
Yes, absolutely, and you can't deny that. You cannot deny that, and that has irked me for many years, that we do not get the money that we really should get for our players. We almost let them go for half, or a ridiculously poor amount of money, and that is the bit that we've got to change and evolve as the club. We've got to get better money for our players and not just simply take a derisory offer or even let them go for nothing. The very fact that we let Morelos go and Kent go for nothing, that really annoyed me. That was they were two valuable players and we got big money from them. And if we got taken the money, all right, it would have been hurtful at the time, but the manager could have then evolved the team and moved it on again. And that's what we've just got to do that. And this, letting guys go for nothing or accepting poor bids, that's got to stop.
Martin, can I just come in there? Just on something the manager said in the presser today. He was asked about Cifuentes and whether he was going anywhere, and then it's sort of twofold that came into, well, do you need to move players on before you can bring players in still? When he said, look, it's not the nicest thing. Maybe that falls into what Brian's saying there, with the board just thinking, look, we've got to, these guys that don't want to be here, we've got to try and move them on. Look, I'm not advocating selling guys for nothing. Is what was just pointed out there. Aberdeen have just got nearly £7 million for their striker. Why we're not holding it for top whack on our players is beyond me. However, is there a bit of to and fro in here that, well, if the manager wants to evolve the squad, then players are going to have to move on. And if we don't move them on, then he's going to be stuck with two guys, i.e. Cantwell and Hadji, that he doesn't really want in there. So there's a lot of moving parts to this, and a lot of parts that we don't see as punters, right? We're not exclusive to everything that's going on there. So there's bits there that I think you've got to try and weigh up. But certainly agree in terms of the CEO stuff, we've got to try and get somebody in there who's, seems to me at the minute, there's a lot of guys, and there's no one in the boardroom saying, hold on a minute, let's draw a line under this and maybe think of this when we start diving into situations that we can't come back from. So whether it's somebody with a proven track record in football, you don't go for somebody that's been involved in the club. That shouldn't be the only makeup. You shorten your pool then. You don't guys don't for British Telecom don't say we only want guys that have worked for British Telecom. You go for anyone with a proven track record in that field and who's best in class, as John Bennett would say. That's what you've got to go and do. So I'm hopefully there's work being done there, because as somebody pointed out there, Biscoe's been gone a damn good while, so it's time to get somebody else in and move this on a wee bit.
Ian, I'm sure it was you, Ian, sent me a message about a player who played for Celtic, and I didn't know this guy existed, and Celtic are selling him for £3 million, right?
Yeah.
This is the massive difference right now between the two football clubs, and I'm going to come to something in a wee minute. But Ian, if the shoe was in the other foot and Hadji and Cantwell right now were playing for Celtic, there wouldn't be this. Hadji's been dropped. Nowhere near the team. Cantwell,
exactly.
They would just be sold and it would be done.
Exactly, and that's the job of the CEO, director of football, recruitment, all this stuff. Because the clock's ticking for us. It's not ticking for Hadji and Cantwell. They'll let their deals run out, and they'll easily find another club on really decent terms for them, because no transfer fee was agreed. So they're in a win-win situation. It's us with the clock's ticking against. We have to secure some money for these guys, I don't really have much faith in that happening now. I really don't, because they just both disappeared off the face of the earth. You know what I mean? In terms of Cantwell's in the Netherlands somewhere. Do you know what I mean? He's just in the ether, and so's Hadji. They've just we're not hearing any kind of real interest for them. Even the players that are playing, like Tav, who was very much touted about potentially moving on, there's no interest in him either. So So the truth is, if you actually appoint a CEO now, it's almost unfair because we've left it so long. I think Colin Foles brought up a really good point there. Bisgrove left ages ago. What are we doing? You know what I mean? He actually left ages ago. So you tell me his job wasn't important, because if it wasn't important, why do we have it in the first place? You know, so at the end of the day, he should be replaced, you know, and it was very much involved in the day-to-day runnings and the moving of assets within Rangers Football Club. So he would have a liaison with the director of football, the manager, and they would essentially then say, right, XYZ's contracts coming up. Do you want to keep them? No. Right. So we won't be renewing it. Let's get them sold.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It's crazy that after what happened so many years ago, that financial wise we're not on the ball with stuff like that. For me, I think it's absolutely.
You know, Martin, I actually think it's that fear of 2012 that's actually got us in that kind of transfixed state that we're actually in at the minute. Philippe Clement mentioned that in the interview. Remember, he actually said, "I know we're very conscious of where we don't want to be, where we were 12 years ago." I actually think we're paralysed by the events of 12 years ago somewhat.
Well, if that's the case, then you would think that they would have the best in class in doing the jobs that really need to be done. Just before we touch on the Kyiv game, Kyiv, I don't know what the politically correct way to say it is, so I'll just say Kyiv, right? Game. Clement was asked something that in a press conference is a ridiculous question, right? And obviously the Scottish media is full of ridiculous questions. But I think it's actually quite a decent question for us to sit here and discuss, and I would be really interested, everybody watching, please get your comments in on this. And before you do that, make sure you like and subscribe and follow across all socials. Link is in the description. And of course, if you want your own Rangers Rabble t-shirt, mug, hoodie, jumper, then head to the website, to the shop, and also read our blogs while you are there. Link for which is also in the description. And who am I going to go to? Robert and then Brian. He was asked if the squad was stronger now than it was last year. Now, taking into account everything that we spoke about from pre-season, from the early start of the games, right? I think this question's got about 4 or 5 different layers, right? I suppose you could ask, is it stronger in terms of current ability and who's in the team? Or is it stronger in terms of the potential that this squad now has?
I think I stand with the manager. I think there's still work to be done in asking him on the 3rd of September or whatever date he threw at us. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of strength and numbers, I would say no. I think we still need more bodies in. I'm really concerned. I know Robin Propper's come in. Still concerned at centre back for me. I think we can need middle of the pitch as well. I think Barron and Diamandi are certainly the guys that are going to start in there, but it's who you come in to play alongside that. Do we need another 10? Do we need another striker? So I think there's work to be done there. So yes, I do agree with you. There's certain layers to that question, but my answer would be I think we were not stronger than we were last season as it stands, but there's still time to correct that. That's why there's a transfer window.
You're nodding along with that there, Brian, or shaking your head agreeing with what Robert's saying there. But in terms of the players that we have at the club now, in terms of the direction that the manager's trying to take it, is it stronger than having a John Lundstrom there, a Borna Barisic there, a Connor Goldson there, even if you want to throw in a Todd Cantwell and a Yanis Hadji or whatever? Is the squad now stronger in terms of personality, in terms of looking forward? Because Jack Butland mentioned in his press conference that everybody seems a lot more settled and there's more optimism, which I thought was quite telling, and I'm going to bring that to you as well. But that says that could also jump to it's actually a stronger squad.
You could, yeah. I mean,
I've totally bamboozled you there with all that information.
I've actually forgot what the question was.
I'm trying to word it correctly. I think as far as experience goes, we're not as good. We've lost a lot of experience with a lot of guys that have, contributed a lot and, done a lot for the, played a lot of games. It's very hard to argue that we're better than what we were at the end of last season. A lot of young guys in. a lot of guys that are still finding their feet, like Barron. He didn't play much at Aberdeen as far as playing every week. Played games here, games there, but didn't play week in, week out. Diamande, he played the 6 months, so it's difficult to argue. I don't think experience wise we're any better. I think we're worse off in experience. Quality of player, not no, I don't think we're much better off, to be honest. And but it's going to take time. This, we were all screaming for a lot of the guys that were out of contract to go, so we've got our wish. We've just got, unfortunately, we've got to be kind of patient with the new guys that are coming in, because we're very quick to get on players' backs, and we're not slow at that, are we?
Let me spin the question slightly, then, Ian. Are you happier with the way that this Rangers squad and team and the management setup looks on the 12th of September compared to the final game of the season last year?
Well, if we're to believe which way the wind is blowing and the direction of travel, then it's but it's work in progress. I think I said in my very first pod with you, Martin, we'll get worse before we get better, and I think that's been outlined to us by both John Bennett and the manager without them actually saying, "Oh, by the way, don't be surprised if we don't win anything this year, but we will get worse before we get better." They've said that, and in layman terms, that's essentially what they've kind of indicated. So remember the squad that finished the season last year finished in second place and was not good enough, and we're weaker than that at the moment. So that's the current state of play right now.
Just sorry, and by weaker, do you mean in terms of just overall playing ability?
Yeah, not as good. Do you know what I mean? So the experience, and regardless of what you thought of Lundstrom and Golson and all these guys, on their day, they're better than what we have at the minute, as far as we've seen so far, right? That's good. So I've got to caveat that, you know what I mean? So Clement's right to say, ask me again in September, because you'll know more about the crop of players he's brought in, and you'll know more about players that are coming that have yet to arrive through the door, So the truth, and that runs in tandem with the work in progress. We're going to get better. We're building a young team for the future, all that kind of stuff. And I think this in previous years, I mean, right after 55, for example, that kind of stuff wouldn't have flied with the Rangers fans. It just wouldn't have. But we've now been so downtrodden and so frustrated and had 3 miserable years. Well, 3 non-title winning years, let's just say, right? To the point where we're thinking, well, maybe we just accept this now. You know what I mean? And truth be told, there's financial implications that indicate that we've got no other choice but to accept it. You know what I mean? So it's just the facts. You know what I mean? The facts are, we can afford X, but we can't afford Y. So we're essentially building a young team that hopefully will get somewhere challenging a title sooner rather than later. So, I mean, it's like the Kyiv game tomorrow night. We still don't know enough about, as much as we saw both teams play, you couldn't throw your hat on a result tomorrow. You just couldn't. It could be 3-1 to Kyiv. It could be 3-1 to Rangers. It could be 1 each again after the extra time. It wouldn't be a surprise. We don't know enough about this current crop of players. We haven't seen enough of them. So, and it goes back to Souness's point. You're 2 games in. You don't know enough about the team that's there. But what I will say is, I like the way Clement is defending his position at the minute. That it shows me he's got a strong character, at least. Yeah. So, I don't know how much inside of me I want to believe what Philippe Clement's doing as opposed to what's actually going on. But I hope it's the former, not the latter.
Brian, you wanted to jump in on
Champions League comment. As far as if we get Champions League, the targets will change. The Champions League game, the final Champions League, if we get to that playoff game, is the 27th, 28th of August. You can't tell me the targets are going to change from the 28th of August to the 31st. We've only got 3-4 days, 2 or 3 days actually.
No, but surely you have all sorts of different targets lined up depending on what competition you're going to be in. Surely that's forward planning.
No, the man just said that the UCL money's not in the budget, so it's not.
But what the manager says on that and what's actually surely to God, if you're Rangers Football Club or you're any team in these Champions League qualifiers, you're surely looking at several different targets, at several different budgets, ready to go when you find out exactly where you're going to be. Surely that's just obvious, basic forward planning.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is that the 28th, if we play on the 28th, for example, that leaves us 3 days to try and get guys for the Champions League sorted out. I'm just saying it's an awful
it's
tight
going to leave
window.
you tight. But I mean, we've just had a discussion about how poor the board is. But if you're doing your job properly, then you're in those positions where, and then you've got Coppin ready to just go, right, boom, let's do this, let's do that, let's get this, let's get that. Because it's not as if you've got those targets lined up, depending on how much money you've got, you've already spoke to agents. You already know the situation with players. You already know if I've got this amount of money, I know that I can get that player, and I know roughly how much the club want. That's how football works.
But you just said that we don't have football men on the board. They don't know how football works. I've got no confidence, Martin, that there's a forward-thinking plan that we're going to bank all this Champions League money, and for 3 days they're going to go do well in the transfer market and sign, the best players on the continent. There might be, I would say, at best you'll get maybe 2 decent loans in. I don't think anything other than that. I really don't.
And remember, just to caveat that, this is the same board that gave the used car salesman best part of 20 million quid.
Yeah, he's not depressing.
All I'm just saying is there's a 3-day window where they've got to sign boys to the Champions League. I'm just worried about that.
Listen, if I can do it in Football Manager, Rangers Football Club can do it. Right? Rangers Football Club can absolutely do it. Look, massive game tomorrow night. I can't go into everything that I wanted to go into because for the first time in my life, folks, I've took notes. And believe it or not, it actually makes it slightly easier. because I've got a list of things that I want to talk about. Look, I'll even show you. That's my notes. Look, boom.
Would you believe that, Martin? Would you believe it preparing actually worked?
I cannot believe I prepared. And now we've got supposedly 3 minutes to go and I'm going to need to pay everybody overtime. That's where I'm at. Robert, the manager, when asked about the game tomorrow, said that it was 2 teams at roughly the same level. Going from that first leg, firstly, do you agree that us and Kyiv are roughly at the same level, ability-wise, and are you confident?
Look, I'm confident in the fact that we're playing it at home in inverted commas. That's got to, have a large backing behind us. That's got to give you confidence. I will say that the manager went on to say, he was questioned about defence and said that, Kyiv are lethal, which I thought was strong language to describe.
They did score 9 goals against that mob.
So, look, I would, if somebody said to me there's a 10, I'd be going and backing Rangers. I think this is one we've got to get through. I would even suggest that in the next round, they're not sort of teams that would put any fear into us. So I think it's firmly in our hands. It does throw questions, but we do need to add 1 or 2 in. If we can do that before the next round, that would be absolutely fantastic. But as we said before, there's loads of wheels in motion. So as for tomorrow night, I think we've got to go out there and believe ourselves. It'd be interesting to see. Obviously, no Balogun, so will it be suited and proper again? I don't think there'll be much change. Huge. I think we're all sort of purring over seeing Cherny again because I thought he was a real bright spark at the weekend. Offers a bit of creativity, experience, likes to play quick, which I really enjoy. So I do think you've got to get confident, think you can get through this one and then see what happens in the next round.
Well, see, I was going to bring it back to that. Well, at least we're at home now, but we're no, and I'm going to bring that up in a wee second. But Ian, in terms of injuries or doubts or whatever, Ngami is getting closer according to the manager. He's getting better with the language, which is good. He's training more. Clinton and Ciala is fully training, so he might be.
I heard he's learned to lace his football boots up now as well, Brilliant.
Well, he's a young boy. He's a young boy. But I suppose the biggest kind of news, if you want to call it that broke was obviously Leon Balogun is very doubtful. Felt a niggle after the game. However, that is really the only injury doubt that we have going into tomorrow night, which for us is a bit of a change.
I mean, he didn't completely discount him. He just said he didn't train today because he's carrying a knock. Do you know what I mean? So, do you risk him? Remember, we've played Leon Balogun before with a knock that ended up with him being out for a good bit of time. So, but this game, there's so much on this game, So yeah, I mean, it's the fact that we're here relying on him, you know, it tells you everything you need to know. I think one of the guys in the comments, in fact, most people in the comments yesterday remarked how, and I think Robert as well, I think he described Suter as a bit of a hype. I think I've been really disappointed with how Suter's turned out. I genuinely saw him coming in and being kind of captain material, but he certainly hasn't shown anything like that at the moment. Do you know what I mean? So he was particularly ropey, I thought, again at Hampden. He was particularly ropey against Kyiv out in Poland. I want to see something a lot better from him. So, you know, going back to Balogun, I'm just talking about, well, who do we play in his place? You know? So
Pro pair starts 100%.
What's that?
Pro pair starts 100%.
Proper starts definitely. And I think if Balogun's even 85% on this game, I'd throw him in.
Yeah. Just on pro pair. I don't know how to pronounce it, Brian.
Yeah.
I was, and mate, look, sometimes I get a little bit ahead of myself, right? I'm not going to say that I'm in love with him or he's one of the most handsome men I've ever seen, but he impressed me. He very, very much impressed me against Motherwell. I can't remember the last time we had a centre back who looked that physically commanding at the back, and he's not massive. He's not a massive guy, but by God, he doesn't give you a second on the ball.
No. And we always sort of felt that Goldson could have been that sort of guy because he was, you know, a bigger guy. Goldson just didn't seem to throw his weight about or use his, you know, his build enough for me. But this proper guy looks, as you say, you would like to think going forward that Suter's the sort of ball playing centre half and Proper will be the sort of the big ugly centre half at the back who'll just do all the dirty work, for example. You know, he was captain of Twente for I can't remember how many years I read, and he's played, you know, 200 games for them. So, you know, he's an experienced campaigner, you know, 30 years old. So he's obviously got a bit of that in him, and we've needed a big centre half who's not going to take a lot of nonsense for a long time. And I'm finally glad that we're looking like we've got one of those now, because every team needs a centre half who's not going to take any shit and, you know, put himself about and let his forwards know that you're not going to have it easy. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to make your life hell. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Proper develop as a player and, you know, see more of him. I mean, as Stuart Allison said in the comments there, you know, Hollander was the last sort of really good penalty box defender that we had. I mean, for me, Hollander was just unbelievable at that, and we've missed that. We've missed a guy that's just willing to tackle and make the correct tackles and, you know, win the balls and move them onto the midfielders. Do his job, win the ball and move it on to the other people who can do the damage. And hopefully Proper is going to be that guy.
Can I just please ask, the Rangers Rabble is a community, right? And we all have opinions. We get on, sometimes we don't get on, but I see it as a community. So can I just please ask everybody in our comments and who is part of the rabble to please be extremely careful what you're putting in those comments. I'm not taking sides. I'm just asking if everybody could please be very, very careful about what you're putting in the chat. We all know how life works now. So all I'm saying is, if you're in the chat and you're putting stuff in, banter's one thing, having a laugh and a joke together is one thing, but please be extremely, extremely careful about what you're putting in the chat. That's all I ask. Thank you. Felt like a public safety announcement there, but you could just please be careful, folks, what you're putting in the chat. In terms of the atmosphere, Robert, for tomorrow night, the manager's asking, you know, the fans to come out in force, but I like the fact that he said that it's not just a one-way street. The players have to give us something to cheer. My worry is, and I've not been to many Scotland games over the last few years. I've not been to a Scotland game. I think the last Scotland game I was at, we drew 1-1 with the USA. I think that's the last Scotland game I was at. And how many years ago was that? So I understand that sometimes Hampden against England, apparently the atmosphere was phenomenal. I just worry that we're going to Hampden. We're not that used to it. So we don't have that kind of same advantage that you would normally have in a home game. Yes, Dynamo played in Poland. I get it. I get they didn't have the same advantage either. But that then works both ways for me.
Listen, see if we started like we started at the weekend. Supporters will have plenty to be on their feet about. I thought we started really well. Bit different watching in the telly because I don't know if Tom Miller and Kevin Thompson were in some sort of bunker. You couldn't really get a feel of the atmosphere. Couldn't hear much of the Union Bears. I know obviously Ian and Brian were at the game. Maybe they might be able to confirm things a little bit better there in terms of atmosphere.
I'm not sure they were at the game. Tom and Kevin.
I don't think they were. No, they sounded like they were in a room somewhere because it was quite delayed in terms of the reactions and the sound sounded a wee bit further away. But albeit, as I say, start the way you started at the weekend, and you'll certainly give the fans something to cheer about. It was quick, it was exciting. I was enthused watching it for the first 20 or so minutes. So I think it's important we take the game to them. We're the home side, and we need to sort of show that we mean business. And if you know, if how can I put this? If you look at previous displays, by starting well and getting on top of games, you tend to go on and win those games. So you don't want to make life difficult for yourself and be holding on or trying to get a goal late on as well. Interestingly, I saw bits in the press today about the Hampden residentials really complaining about supporters, congestion, parking. This seems to be a real dig at the club. Like they must have known what was coming.
Is that the same supporters who probably spent a fortune in the local shops, brung atmosphere to the surrounding areas, who actually probably done good for the area? Do they complain when there's concerts?
There was a direct sort of complaint about young girls and boys dressed in black. So take from that what you will. Maybe in the local limos, I don't know. But certainly, there was a dig at the younger personnel.
I do know the locals complain if the concerts go on too long.
Was it all these cheap Rabble podcast T-shirts that we're cutting about?
It might have been. Absolutely might have been. No, the only point that I was trying to make, Ian, was in a game like this where, look, let's be honest, we don't know how much is between the two teams because it's so early in the season. You need to try and grab onto every single advantage that you can. And if we were going back to Ibrox, I would probably be far more confident for tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%. It's a really good point, because what I will tell you about how the game ended on Saturday was I don't think I'm talking out of turn when I say on the 65th, 70th minute, half the stadium had gone home. It emptied out really quickly, because certainly where I sat, it literally, and the game was on a knife edge, it was 2-1. So I think that's a mixture of both the lack of atmosphere and the disgruntled fans that are having to go there in the first place, you know. There was a few incidents. Incidentally, Glasgow Police made comment. There was a few incidents after the game on the Aikenhead roadside heading back into town, you know. But what I will tell you is, without being so graphic about it, when I walked back into town, because I walked to Central Station, I walked back to Central Station, there was some local residents that were ready for us, let's just say.
Yes.
You know, and it was particularly grotty. It's some areas. So yeah, it was. I think the atmosphere on the whole was one of a bit of discontent and a wee bit of just the general feeling as to where we are as a club at the minute. So, but I think I said again, my very first pod, whether we like it or not, we have to get behind this team. And Robert made a really good point the other day when I was kind of saying about Monday, drifting in and out of games. We can't turn in too many of these players. We genuinely can't, because they're so young and they will crumble. Because I know what we're like when we get going. If we take the hump, we're terrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Rangers fans are terrible when they take the hump. And I've been there. I've been one of those guys. So, because the level of expectation, rightly or wrongly, is through the roof at Rangers, you know. So we've got to get behind these guys, you know. Regardless, we know that we've seen better Rangers teams in the past, and this won't be the best Rangers team we'll ever see in the future. But these are the guys that are doing it for us at the minute. And if we're to buy into Philippe Clement's philosophy, then we have to back these boys, because they're just young. They're so young, most of them. You know, and sound like right old guy when I said that.
Listen, I feel mega old, and I'm only 35. Just finishing up then, Brian. Somebody that we haven't mentioned at all on the pod tonight, and yet his picture's on the thumbnail. Vaclav Cherny How important do you think he'll be tomorrow? You watch him and you can see clearly that he is still not up to full fitness. Obviously, he played in the Euros, had to get a wee bit of time off, and he's came kind of straight into the team. But against Motherwell, showed his importance. Great goal. He certainly starts tomorrow.
100%. 100%. He's one of those guys that when he picks up the ball, there's only one way he's going, and he's attacking the fullback. He's looking to take
that. I love that positivity.
Yeah, and he never ever looks as though he wants to go backwards or to the side. He's always thinking positively, and that's what you want in wingers. You want guys that are going to get up, get you off your seat, and sort of get you a bit excited about something could happen here, And his goal on Saturday was just top drawer, really good finish, and it's a sort of moving guy that we've been crying out for a long time. Unfortunately, we've only got him on loan, so he won't. You never know. We might sign him after it, but it's the sort of player that you need. You need wingers who are quick, direct, and not scared to attack a fullback, and maybe mix it up sometimes. Don't always go out on the outside. Don't always go on the inside. Mix it around. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm very aware that he's a left-footed player playing on the right, so obviously going down the right's not his thing, but left-footers just have this ability. I don't know how they do it, but they just, like Robin mastered it. You always knew he was going to go inside, but nobody could stop him because he was so good. And you're just hoping that there's a little bit of that in him where he can attack a fullback. The fullback knows he's going inside, but just can't stop him.
Yeah.
Final question, Robert. And Ian, if you want to jump in the back of this, fire in. Shefty on the left tomorrow or Scott Wright?
It'll be Scott Wright without a shadow of a doubt. As I said to you the weekend, manager trusts him. It'll be Scott Wright, barring any injury. And then Hefty as an option, should Scott Wright not be doing what's required.
Ian?
Yeah, I agree. That's what will happen, whether that's what should happen. Of all the substitutes that happened at the weekend, the one that I thought would happen didn't. That's the only criticism I could have. I thought Hefty would come on for Wright. That didn't materialise, But
has Wright been terrible, Ian? Or has he been?
He's not been terrible. And listen, the argument is he's getting played out of position. He's just a bit too powder puff for me. Going round the keeper and then, we see that type of miss he had in the first few minutes is very Scott Wright-esque. That's the kind of thing he does. And incidentally, we've got, can I just say, Scott Wright's on circa $8,000 a week. We've got much bigger problems at our club than Scott Wright, right? So let's just get that into, priority. So that's the end. But interesting, just on Czerny's goal, it was interesting that for once from the left-footed right winger, he actually didn't have to turn inside on this occasion because he picked up the ball from Tav in the inside right position, and then he just had to trace the 18-yard line and let fly on his left foot. Do you know what I mean? So that his little bit of turning in didn't have to happen because I think, and I hope I'm wrong, it's quite easy to defend against a left-footed right winger sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Because you just show them the outside. You know what I mean? But I've got to say, I've seen Czerny's video clips and whatnot, and his right foot's not rubbish. He's got a right foot.
Also, McCausland, I don't think McCausland's picking up on what Czerny's doing, but the manager mentioned that today as well, that McCausland's been working on that, cutting in on his left foot. And I think, and look, we need to finish up, right? I know. I just think that McCausland's got something to offer us.
Well, you and Robert made a good point in the last pod because it looks like there's a fire been put up on or something because he looks like he's going more direct, doesn't he?
And he looks good when he goes direct.
Yeah.
He looks really, really good.
I would certainly like to see the front three finished in Poland start tomorrow night. Czerny, Dessers, and Jefty. I'd like to see that. When that happened, we were much better.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Robert, sorry, did you want to jump in just because you came off mute there?
No, just going to say, the light's turning out in my bit. I started with the light and I've ended up in the pitch black.
On that note,
do I need to increase my allowance, son?
He needs to pay that back pocket money. That's what he needs to do. On that note, folks, we shall leave it there. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. The Monday night shows are getting more popular. We had over 800 people tuning in at any one time live tonight. So thank you very, very much. We hope you enjoy the content. If you do, please like, share, subscribe, follow. on every platform that we are on, all the links for which are in the description. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, then hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know exactly when we are going to be live. We're back tomorrow night, about 5 or 10 minutes after the game for reaction, because when it's a later kick-off, it can't be 2 hours after it. Who's up at 1 in the morning? Probably Macy's, to be fair. And then on Wednesday, we have a special interview, which will be live for our members and then released on YouTube on the Thursday. And of course, Thursday, we have our members show. And then, of course, we have Rabble Extra on Friday and then reaction at the weekend. So, yes, help Robert pays Lecky Bill. So, Robert, Ian, Brian, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you, everybody in the comments. Thank you, everybody watching. Thank you to all the people listening back on all the audio downloads as well. And yeah, we'll see you all tomorrow night after a comprehensive Rangers win.